So my video questioning, do you really want a dedicated home theater, elicited a lot of responses and comments and discussion. And so I wanted to make a follow-up to that, answer a few of those points, and also kind of more directly address the question, do I regret investing in, putting the time in building my dedicated theater space? So let's talk about that. Alright, so in this video I want to go through 5 more talking points about do I regret building my dedicated home theater, and follow up some of the discussion and the concepts that were in the should you build a dedicated or do you want a dedicated home theater video. Point number 1, I want to just say that the goal of my last video wasn't to talk anybody out of building a theater. It wasn't to downplay the value or the interest in this hobby and such, or you know, AV gear and HiFi and all of that stuff. But I did want to provide some real food for thought about putting a lot of time and energy and cost and money and whatnot into something that has a very kind of specific use or maybe limited use depending on your lifestyle and those types of concepts. Looking to kind of spur discussion and open up some conversation about perspectives that I've learned after some years of building a space, and then obviously I liked it enough to kind of put more time and effort and money into it. But I definitely learned some things about it. I kind of want to make the channel about the experience of this hobby, sharing perspective on it, how we experience it, how we use it, how we do it. The point of the prior video right off the bat wasn't about regret, it was about food for thought. And kind of building on that, one of the other major points of kind of contention was that I threw out a lot of big numbers. 20K, 50K, 70K. And while I have many tens of thousands of dollars into my equipment between my living room and the theater, and I've continued to invest more and put other things into my spaces and upgrade, I do want to say that yes, I do agree, 10K or under 10K, you can build some really awesome systems. You can build some really awesome systems that you should be completely happy with, enjoying it, and will be awesome in performance. This is a hobby of diminishing returns, quite honestly, in my experience. And the more you spend, maybe you get some better stuff, maybe you get some better performance, more features and whatnot. But yeah, you don't have to go nuts to have a really great experience. Under 10K, several $1,000s range, yes, you can get some really, really great performing, awesome, incredible equipment. The one thing I will say to that is I was trying to slant the video more towards the concept of building like a dedicated, separate, additional space, not necessarily like do you want to build out a really great home theater space in your living room, because I think there's a different element involved when you take the project and you cordon off another dedicated room or some dedicated square footage of your home to make a secondary space for this stuff, you know, versus building it into a living space and all of that. And again, I want to say that's not to say that you can't build or integrate AV and HiFi and all this entertainment into the living space, but from a cost perspective, I was throwing out bigger numbers because when you take your stuff to a dedicated area, I was kind of looking at it from the perspective of everything that would go into it in terms of preparing a room, maybe rebuilding some things, and going from like a from scratch perspective where you might not, you know, in your living room probably have some seating, probably have a couch. If you're putting together a new dedicated space, kind of have to do everything from scratch. You're going to need new seating, and so all that stuff adds up in the cost and into the total price of the project. And that's what I was trying to hit to in some of those bigger numbers. Yeah, for a few $1,000s, several $1,000s, you can build a really nice stack of gear, display, audio equipment, some speakers. But again, as you approach a blank project to dedicate a space, there's going to be more costs that come with it in terms of, you know, rebuilding, refinishing, and some of the other things that you might not need if you're investing in your living room. So I was trying to hit that kind of angle on it. But again, you can build some really, really great performing systems in spaces, even in compromised spaces or challenging spaces, for less than the numbers that I was throwing out before. Systems that would be absolutely awesome for sure. So the second point that I want to hit on here is just to very blanketly and clearly say, I really like my room. I'm very happy that we did that project. It had been something that I talked myself out of several years ago when we built our home. And then four and a half years ago, the opportunity presented itself to convert that room that wasn't being used into something like this that, yeah, maybe we don't use it as much as I would like to, but I have no regrets. And so every time I go in there, or every time we go in there, particularly as a family, for a movie night, we fire something up and watch it. I love it. I'm drawn in. The performance, the impact, the big screen, the audio system, doing that activity together with my wife and my kids. I have a great time. I really enjoy it. I'm happy that it's there. I accept the fact that, we're not in there every night, maybe not even in there every few days, and that's okay. That doesn't make me regret the space at all. I'm very grateful that I also set up a kind of more scoped living room system. That is where I spend more of my time. I'm happy to have both. They serve different kind of uses, and they both areas kind of specialize in slightly different use cases now in separate things, where I would be more inclined to kind of just chill with TV shows and gaming and stuff like that in the living room, or kind of just lounging with the family. And the room, over there is the dedicated room, is really very much a movie room. And again, I'm still okay with that, because every time I go in there and watch a movie, I leave, wanting to come back in fairly short order and watch another. And my backlog of movies that I want to see is huge, so I've got no shortage of stuff to pick from when the opportunity does present itself to get in there and use it and enjoy it, and we definitely do. So if I painted any kind of picture of regret or whatnot, that wasn't kind of my take on it. What I wanted to present was the idea of accepting the reality of some stuff. And I think a home theater is very akin to having a luxury sports car in a four-weather state like I'm in here, where you can't drive it, many months of the year, or some really nice motorcycle or a pool. It's just one of those things where maybe in the course of doing it, it doesn't come out the way that you think it's going to. I do face the reality that I thought that we would get more out of the room. I thought it was going to be a music listening space, a hangout space, and it's really not. I thought I might use it more independently, and the reality is I kind of don't, because again, I don't like going just down there and sitting there for a long time by myself. I would like to be more in the common area of the household with my wife and my family. But it's not a regret, it's a reality. And so I wanted to share, from having learned that reality firsthand, I wanted to share that. Maybe that's a deal breaker for somebody else, but it's not. It doesn't make it a regret for me. I love the space. I love using the space, and every time I do, I'm ready to, looking forward to the next time when we would go and do so again. And so that kind of rolls into the third point that I wanted to make in this video, interleaving the idea of regret in the cost. So I don't regret putting the time and effort into making the space. I don't regret spending the money to outfit the space, redo the space, re-equip it like I did. I say thankfully we do okay in our household here, probably very, very much more than okay. And so we have the income and the cash flow to be able to do this stuff, to have fun, and for me to be able to have fun in this hobby the way that I'm able to, at the level that I'm able to. So super grateful for that. I have mentioned in a variety of videos the idea of not going into debt for this stuff, not going beyond your means, and I live by what I say in that regard. I don't borrow money. None of this equipment that I put in anywhere, room things that I've done, has been financed. We've been able to do the things that we've done with cash flow, with money that we've had on hand, spending it as we go. And that doesn't make for any additional dimension of regret. My point was just the reality of, it's still a lot of money, and it's still money kind of sitting there, and I'm again happy when I use it, but it's still pretty considerable, and maybe the calculus is different for somebody else. And if my experience of executing this hobby and doing this stuff can either help folks, by my talking about it, can help folks to say, yeah, okay, I've thought about these different dimensions now, and I'm all in. I think I understand, and I'm ready to go. Or, well, maybe not. Maybe I want to back off on this, or I want to change something in terms of this intent. If that can help, that's great. That's one of the main reasons that I kind of wanted to make the channel, is I do a lot of stuff in this space, and I figured I might as well share it. I might as well talk about it, kind of build a community around it, and I want the channel to be about the experience of applying and executing and doing all of this stuff kind of in this hobby. and talking about it, and it comes with certain realities. And again, it can be a very expensive hobby as well, and a bit of a rabbit hole too if you let yourself kind of get pulled down it. But at the end of the day, it is just money, and if you have it, right, who cares? There's people that can buy Trinoffs and not bat an eye, and there's other folks that can buy an entry-level receiver, and not be bothered by that cost. That's great. There's very much levels here, and while some equipment and while some rooms might cost a lot more than others, I don't want to be exclusionary in any way. The less expensive room can still be awesome, and I want folks to love it. I want to share the enthusiasm and interest in all of that. So I put a lot of money in this stuff. I don't regret it. It's really my kind of main hobby, my main interest. I like tinkering with things. I like doing all of this stuff. If I were to say anything else about cost, it would just be the reality that even if you have the money, that's fine and that's great, and hopefully that's the situation you're in, that you want to be spending money on hobby things in a way that you don't miss it and you're not compromising other things in your life. But no matter what, there's still always opportunity cost, right? You take X amount of dollars to do one thing. Even if you have them, that's still X amount of dollars that isn't left to grow, or invest for the future. That's X amount of dollars that isn't left to do something else, in your life, or maybe that your spouse might like to do, or your kids might like to do, and so hopefully, everybody has the means to accomplish and achieve everything, and do all the things that they want to do in their lives. And I guess just a warning that don't get too lost, don't get too lost in the gear, and that again, you end up compromising something else in your life, or putting your financials in a limited situation for entertainment and for the hobby. So the fourth kind of concept that I wanted to add a little more emphasis on, that I was trying to also shed some light on in the first video, was the perspective of kind of like losing the vision of this stuff by the specifics of it, and just say, it's very easy to get caught up into things or get pulled into stuff, particularly what you're reading and interacting on certain forums. A lot of people take this stuff super seriously, and they spend like massive amounts of time in getting this and dialing that in, and adding these things, and getting into very complex executions of the hobby. And I don't want to downplay that either. For some people, that's what makes it fun for them. For others, I think that halo can pull people in a little bit too far. And I will say, in my life, I've gotten into some stuff that sounded like, oh, okay, I think I really want this. And I'm not talking about the theater in this regard. I'm talking about like maybe some things that I've collected, or I thought, yeah, okay, maybe I really want these things. And I went after them, put in the time and effort and energy to collect them or whatever. Maybe enjoyed some of the chase or some of the hunt and stuff of doing it, but kind of got to the end of the road and said, well, maybe I really don't have as much of a use for these things as I thought I did. And so as I've put a few years on myself, looking back at things that I've spent my time on, and maybe things where I wanted to have spent my time a little differently or whatnot. Again, it's all perspective, and I'm just trying to discuss it from a food for thought things, and kind of provide the warning, right? And just enjoy stuff, enjoy your hobbies, enjoy all of those things, but don't let yourself get pulled like too far, too deep, beyond your scope, right? Beyond your needs, or maybe even beyond your actual wants, because of the halo effect and the pulling forward effect. And I think home theater and HiFi has particular risk factors in this in that dimension that maybe some other hobbies and stuff don't. But I'd imagine most things do. Maybe you like building cars, or souping up your vehicles. In just about anything, most likely there's always a way to spend more. There's always a way to get more more involved, more pulled in, and so on. And there's kind of three dimensions to things in life, I think. You've got time, you kind of got like the stress level of it, and then you have the cost level of it. And balancing those three things in terms of your commitments and what you put in to something is important. And it's easy to get ahead of yourself in any of those three dimensions. The perspective that I've learned on a couple things in my life is that sometimes the journey is more fun than the destination. And sometimes you think getting yourself somewhere is going to provide some kind of certain return or response, but the reality of the situation once you get yourself there might be different than the picture that you painted for yourself, or the picture or the expectation that you set around that thing. And I think that this hobby can happen So yeah, perspective. And again, I didn't want the original video to be just about me. I wanted to place a call out for people to comment. Folks that have done things or not done things, and how do you feel about them, and so on. Because only by like that discussion, or my opinion is one opinion. There's many thousands of folks or whatnot that will watch the videos and such, and have the ability to share their experience and perspective. And the more maybe somebody up and coming in the hobby or thinking about the hobby can read those experiences from folks, again, that have the perspective, it might help them. It might help them avoid a bad decision, or also positively, it could help them make a better decision for what they're trying to do and what their interests and such are. At the end of the day, it's about community and sharing experience and sharing perspective. So kind of wrapping up and folding that right into the fifth general idea, or kind of reevaluation, reinterpretation of what I said last time, is that ultimately, this is a hobby. Let's have fun. Let's buy some cool stuff. There's so much awesome AV gear out there at all kinds of different levels, all kinds of different performance characteristics and features and form factors and so on. I think this is a real cool hobby. I enjoy it so much that I did all this stuff and I made this channel. I'm doing this thing just to further, like, add another dimension to my enjoyment of this hobby, and kind of build a community around it. So let's have fun in it. Let's do all this stuff together. Let's talk about it together. I really do enjoy making these videos and sharing and so on. I love reading all the comments that folks make about it. I try to respond to every single one still, even as the volume of comments and such coming back is getting bigger. I'm going to do that as long as I can. And for me, I've been tinkering around with home theater things for nigh on 20 years at different levels in several different homes and living spaces that we've had over the years. So I think I've learned quite a bit about how to do things. I've certainly made some mistakes along the way, and I have done some things that I would look back at myself and do differently. I don't consider this room and the things that I have kind of in this space now any of those regrets. I'm having a lot of fun with this stuff, and particularly, again, feeding it through to the channel. But if my lessons learned and my perspective can add some value to your enjoyment of the hobby and the road that you're walking in it, that's what I'm trying to accomplish. So I want to be honest and open about stuff that I consider to be wrong. I've got a video actually that'll be coming shortly, or coming around the same time to the channel, about something kind of stupid that I did with the wiring in my setup that was causing me some problems, a lesson learned. I'm not making these videos as some kind of infallible entity. I think I've got a lot of knowledge and experience, but I'm still have all kinds of things in life that I still need to learn myself. And so I hope that I always come off as pretty pragmatic, pretty realistic, pretty honest. I can laugh at myself when I screw something up, or I made a mistake. But again, I want to share that. Maybe I can help you avoid the same thing that I did. I think that's the great thing about age, getting a little bit older and having experiences and stuff under your belt. And I have a few folks in my life that I kind of mentor with one-on-one and get to share and help guide. And I really like that. I really like doing that stuff. That's also kind of a means and an umbrella of what I try to bring to the channel as well. So at the end of the day, with home theater, with HiFi, enjoy it. Figure out what's right for you. Do what's right for you. Don't worry about what other folks have to say about your decisions and your choices and whatnot. Just make sure that what you're doing, do it deliberately, right? Do it with some thought behind it. Do it with some intent. Do it with stability. There's no one size fits all in this hobby, and it scales from the simplest of things to the most massive commercial theater in the home, hundreds of thousands of dollars or more level. And so we can all have fun across that spectrum wherever you fall. And so that's what I want the channel to be about. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this video clarified some things. If you found this video first and you didn't see the other one that kind of prompted this response, that will pop up in a link here in a moment. Feel free to check that one out, as well as all the other stuff on the channel, and particularly the home theater playlist. So please do all the regular YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Share this video as well if you think it'd be useful to somebody or help somebody out. And come on back for a whole lot more AV, home theater, hi-fi, and all of that. Thanks for watching.